How we doing, folks? This is Mike, and I'm joined by Mike. This is the Why Not Us podcast, and full transparency and PSA to the audience is that, well, this podcast is very much different 15 minutes ago than it is right now because the Eagles just blew a game they had in their hands. And now all the takes I had prepared about the weekend and the Cowboys have gone in the shitter. And the audience gets to see me like this, Mike, and let's react to the game. And then hopefully in about 5 minutes, I'm able to take a step back, get a macro view, and still punch you in the mouth a little bit for the Cowboys. But wow.
Happy Mike Monday, Mike. Happy Mike Monday. I mean, talk about start of a week.
Yeah,
First day back at work.
I mean, just
finish the day off watching Monday Night Football.
What a wild weekend in the NFL. Just let me start off with football is so football because Saquon Barkley dropped a ball on third down and 3 to end the game. It would have been a 10-point game probably. He was going to score on that play with a minute left. And one drop leads to just a complete swing of my emotions. It's just, I don't think I should really be relying on a sport in a game of inches like this, because this is, wow, it's really that quick, huh? Like, this is, you realize what you like, that's a loss right there. Am I just going to talk through my pain about what just happened this podcast? Like, man, you're going to look back on that one. You had a chance to take the front runner in the NFC East. The Niners lost, the Cowboys lost, the Lions lost, and nope, one drive, one drop ball. And let me tell you, like, the Eagles, Jalen Hurts had a great game, Saquon Barkley had a great game, and it sucks because, yeah, when you really break it down, Saquon kind of just lost us that football game, which sucks to say, but he did. He just has to catch that. And that's where we are today. And I'm not as happy as I should be, Mike. And it's tough to deal with.
Yeah. What a swing of events. I mean, I was having a rough Monday.
Yeah, do you want to talk about your day?
Yeah,
I haven't talked to you too. First of all, it's great to see you. I was really hoping to be like, but nope, my weekend was good, but also not good. How was your weekend? I just want to hear someone else talk. This sucks.
My weekend was decent. Went to work the UVA game. Got back in time on Sunday by noon, had some food, was on the couch by 1 o'clock, and then the Cowboys really just destroyed the rest of my day. I was able to rally and watch football afterwards and try and not think about it, and was absolutely dreading going to work today. Had a 10-hour shift, absolutely grueling. Didn't get to watch most of the game tonight. Finally got to watch the fourth quarter as I was on the train home.
Of course you were watching the fourth quarter.
All day I was dreading this podcast because I was afraid that the Eagles would win in commanding fashion and I would get absolutely shit on. And it was a really shitty day. And then I got off the train with 2 minutes left to go, said, fuck it, I'm going to grab a drink at the bar right next to my apartment. Grabbed a drink just to watch the last 2 minutes, and
this is all your fault.
Then the Eagles lost.
You're telling me that
I'm excited to be here.
Right when your shitty weekend was over is when the Eagles flipped on their head. Is that what the universe just did right there? That's great to hear. That's awesome. That's so cool. You want to hear some of the
crazy? I had a moderately average weekend and a bad Monday, and was dreading this. And you had a pretty fun weekend. And we're excited to come on here until about
20
minutes ago.
You had no idea. Like, I had it all planned. Some of the takes I had were so ready. And just like that, I can't get over it. It sucks. It just sucks. I had so many more thoughts and I can't get through them. Where do we have to take a macro review at some point. We have to talk about the Cowboys at some point.
At some point. I think the football gods kind of gave you a early celebration penalty or something.
Oh my God, something like that. Yeah, no kidding. Do you want to hear the text that I sent Mike right before that happened? What was it, Mike? What did I joke about? what did I joke about after Saquon dropped that ball? Do you have the text ready? I'll read
I
it.
can pull it up.
I got it. All right. Let's see. Their prob's going to chew the clock out. So Saquon just sold my spread. Fuck that guy. He's the worst. Unless Kirk Cousins decides to go nuclear and completely change the entire podcast agenda. That would be just great. 2 exclamation points. Man, that drop was so big. Next text from Mike approximately 9 minutes later. So that just happened. And yeah, it did just happen. And fuck, Eagles. Come on. Because we're going to get to the Cowboys. And here's me coming to my macro view now because they shot themselves in the foot. The refs sucked. They put him in a lot of sticky situations in which Jalen had to play great to get him out of it, and he did. And they had to play almost perfect and make good decisions down the stretch. And they had one big mistake at the end. CJ Gardner-Johnson had a great play to really seal the game, and they just had to gut him. Teen play drive 10 minutes to bring it down to 6 minutes in the fourth quarter. And they get the stop, and they still lose. It sucks. It's a bad loss for the Eagles, but for a different reason than the Cowboys. And now just the biggest question about this team is going to be, how do they get back from this? How do they respond? They're playing a juiced up Saints team next week, and they are on a very big risk of going 1-2, as are the Cowboys, who are playing the Ravens next week, who could go 0-3. So I was looking at the week 3 slate, Mike, some juicy games, and they're still going to tell a lot about our teams. I was just hoping it was going to be to the point where I was like, Eagles are 2-0, Cowboys are 1-1 playing the Ravens. We got the Saints. It could be like the deciding factor of the NFC East, really. Like that was going to be my take. And now we're back to square even. So congrats. We have more content for the podcast because the Eagles couldn't finish tonight. It's just a damn shame.
Couldn't finish in the end of the game. Probably kicked too many field goals. Didn't convert on 4th down in the first half.
Yeah.
I mean, the Falcons probably should have had more points. They got to the red zone pretty easily on every drive.
I think both teams left points on the board for sure.
It was just nice to watch. It's just
okay,
good to
so
know
you
that
didn't
the
get to
Eagles
watch
are
a lot
still
of the game. I don't want to.
No, I watched every moment that mattered.
Yeah, no kidding. God damn. Football, man. What a sport. What was my take last episode? Like, greatest sport in America? Man, this fucking sucks. This is one team wins. That's it. One team.
And you know what our mutual take was last week? Was we're not really going to talk about either game that we're playing because we're both going to win comfortably. And you know what I realized? Neither one of us ever win comfortably.
No, and they could have. He just needed to catch the ball. And literally one of my favorite reporters tweeted, he's like, it's never easy, is it? And it was like, that was like the Seahawks game, the last Monday night game we had. Shit, that's 3 Monday night games in a row. The Bucs won in the playoffs was too. The Seahawks last year. That's already the last Monday night games. And they were all in excruciating fashions. Like, holy crap. That was like the Hawks versus Sixers game 5, 2018. Like, how did you lose that one, dude?
And the Eagles, let's not forget, still got the ball back with like 43 seconds. I thought there was still too much time on the clock. I know Jalen Hurts got hit, so the interception sort of isn't his fault. But like, they were 15 yards from kicking a game-winning field goal, and they couldn't even do that.
For sure. And for some reason, I didn't feel comfortable about them getting there. I just didn't.
I was like, damn, I'm going to somehow hit this Falcons +5 bet, but my Falcons money line is out the window. And now suddenly, I'm up a shit ton of money on the week, insane. And it's only Monday.
It's just crazy. Speaking of bets, we both hit our big bets. The Bucs beat the Lions outright. That spread, like I said, was disrespectful. And I don't know if you watched that Commanders-Giants game. I'm pretty sure the Giants had 3 touchdowns and the Commanders had none. And the score was 21-18. And thank God we have the Giants in our lives because it makes my day a little bit better right now because, wow, that is one creative way to lose.
Yeah, I don't know who the Giants are playing next week, but my lock of the week is going to be the other team's spread. Graham Gano was like banged up all week, and they still chose to put him out there. Didn't have a plan for a backup kicker.
You can pick one off the street.
Didn't use him because he got hurt in the game.
Brian Dable, come on, man. Oh,
He's
man.
got to go.
That's the thing about this Eagles game is like you can't really draw conclusions other than this is going to hurt and they're going to have to respond, which sucks because, man, it's just crazy how just inches of football can just define not only like the outlook going into week 3, but just like your momentum going into the rest of the season. Like the swing, that missed drop by Saquon Barkley to end the game, like the swing, in like in football when it's like the quarterback throws an interception on the goal line and it's like a touchback and he goes to the other team and they have a quick touchdown and it's like a 14-point swing. Well, that was that. But it's like the season swing, right? This could have been like the Eagles, like last undefeated team in football, goes on this run, clinches the NFC East. Now they're in a hole. They're in a self-made hole again. And we'll see the response. I feel good about them to respond. Like I said, Jalen, Saquon, the offense looked good. They just left points on the board again. And if that keeps happening, then there's one guy we got to bring up, and it's Sirianni.
But yeah, the offense did look good tonight. I think the Falcons' defense is pretty legit.
They are. And they got some dudes up front. Like both lines of scrimmage. Same thing with the Packers. Like those were two tough teams that we just played. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. I just still think that the same questions from the end of last season are suddenly very apparent. It's the Eagles' offense isn't as good. Jalen Hurts is able to run the ball, but he's still not an incredible passer. And now you've got all these questions about the locker room. How are they going to bounce back? Like, Saquon's going to be fine. I'm not worried about Saquon. Yeah.
But I mean, if anything, that's
got no A.J. Brown. Yeah. You need Devontae Smith to step up, and he did tonight. That other random white guy played pretty well.
Yeah, but Britton Covey had a game out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It was funny because A.J. Brown was out, but Britton Covey and like Grant Calcaterra are like second or third string tight end. Both got more reception. I think the Eagles did the math wrong. Like it was only one guy that was out.
Yeah, the Eagles, man. I mean,
you're right.
Are they going to ever put it together? This was my thing starting the season.
I know it is.
On paper, the roster's legit, but are they ever going to be able to put it together?
It's not even paper. It's film. Like they're good. They're right there. They're one of the most talented, hard to beat teams in the NFL. And you said it best, Mike, and I can't argue. The same questions exist from last year, and it's nothing about the roster. It's nothing. It's just about the execution, and they gotta just show it at some point. Like, man, they desperately need a game this year in which they just pound a good winning football team, and they're like, there it is, and then it's just the ground running, and they just can't find it. It's these tough, physical, just slow games. Jalen had a great game on the ground. He did the thing where he pulled out those third and longs out of his ass, and that's the make of a great quarterback when you can convert on those. And I was very happy with his performance today. And maybe, Mike, that's the most alarming thing about this team right now. It's just like the yardage is there, the talent's there. The score today was 22-21, the other team at home. Tough.
Doesn't it seem like that's kind of like the recipe for the Eagles? Like, I don't know if Sirianni wants them to win by 35. I think he wants to play these tough, in the trenches kind of football games where they run the ball for the most part. Jalen Hurts doesn't have to pass the ball like crazy. You know, you're going to have some long third downs where you need him to make some plays. And for the most part, he did that tonight. But I think they're built to play close games and rely on the defense and rely on the running game. I don't think he wants to have this insane offense, even though he has it on paper. I think he wants to just play a close game, grind down the other team, and then win in the second half.
It's weird because I almost like agree with you there because it's hard to say that because of what we saw in 2022 with them running over teams. But what I saw tonight was, he's just cool with playing a very close football game in which they extend these drives and he's betting on the clock at the end of the game. But guess what? If one thing goes wrong, then Kirk Cousins get the ball back and he needs just 6 easy completions to get down the field. And just like that, you lost the game. So I don't know if I like this recipe. It looked good for 56 minutes of the game or 58, right? And then flips on its head, but it's the end of the score that matters. And yeah, those are my closing thoughts. It's weird because it's like it's such an excruciating loss, but at least my team doesn't suck, and that's going to segue me to my next point because the Cowboys loss was alarming for so many other reasons in this game. It wasn't because of them shooting themselves in the foot. It was because they looked bad. And they got beat in a way that we are not used to seeing the Cowboys get beat. And that they were manned in the trenches, just beat to a pulse, both sides of the football. Dak didn't have his best game, but I don't think that's the story, Mike. I think the story is that defensive line, especially the interior, and the offensive line too. But what's calming you down about the Cowboys right now? What are you holding on to?
Besides the Eagles,
You can't do that.
I can't. No. We'll stick to the Cowboys game.
Okay.
I've had a little more time to reflect,
Oh,
and I've come to a few different conclusions. Number one, for some reason, the Cowboys do this for 2 to 3 games a year where they just don't show up and look like shit. Usually, the final time they do that is in the playoffs, so that is what scares me.
So only one more.
But they do this throughout the regular season. It's usually like against a decent team, but not a great team, which is the exact formula for what happened on Sunday. Usually doesn't happen when they're at home, so I don't love that. But they usually just have these dud games. And I think what really happened, like you said, was the defense. The Saints had 4 touchdowns on their first 4 drives. 2 of them were very quick touchdowns, so the defense was gassed. And the Cowboys had 2 field goals and a touchdown on their first 3 drives. So what continues to concern me about the offense is the inefficiency in the red zone. The offense has no idea what they're doing. I think Jake Ferguson being out was a big loss. He's the clear number 2 option, but I'm not going to blame the loss on Jake Ferguson. I just don't understand what is going on in the red zone. They can't figure it out. They can't finish drives. You have the whole regular season to figure that out, but you got to start scoring touchdowns. As far as the defense goes, I don't love it, obviously, and I don't feel great, but it's game 2 of Mike Zimmer, game 2 of a new system. The Saints just called an absolutely perfect game plan and tore us apart. Yeah. I think it's really hard to do that. I think that they completely to the opposite side of wherever Micah Parsons was at, and he was just a non-factor in the game. I think they're going to figure out the defense with Mike Zimmer, and it's only going to get better. I'm really not worried long time. Ultimately, it's a random dud game. They're going to win 5 out of their next 7 games, and we're going to forget that this even happened.
Okay, you're pushing your sorrow back, which I understand, but man, if week 5 comes around or week 17, if the Cowboys aren't where you want them to be, it's going to be because of the holes we saw today, which was who the hell are they starting at defensive tackle, right? I don't think it's a Mike Zimmer thing if they can't just win up front, and I don't think they have the talent there anymore. I don't think they have the talent on the offensive line anymore. You're seeing them go to CeeDee Lamb a lot, which is great. He's a stud, and Dak is good when he throws to him. But that's going to be a tough way to win football game week after week. I mean, what if he gets hurt? Like they're just all about him. And same thing with Micah on the defensive line. He doesn't have anyone. DeMarcus Lawrence is washed. He was getting pumped. I get what you're doing, but I'd be worried. I would.
I was really worried on Sunday. I was really worried, and I was like, what is going on? And it just kept getting worse. And I didn't understand, and then I remembered that we're the Cowboys and we do this. And
you do this.
I just am going to ignore everything that happened on Sunday. We're going to come out against the Ravens. We're going to look good. We're going to bounce back. I'm not saying we're going to win the game, but it's whatever that spread is, the score is going to be less than 3 either way. Mm-hmm. The Cowboys are going to look good. They play to their opponent, which is to their fault a lot of times when they play worser opponents. Defensive tackle, yeah, that's an issue. It was an issue last season, especially in the second half of the season, and it's a personnel thing. There's just nobody there, so they're going to have to get really creative and really rely on Micah Parsons. When you put him on one side of the edge rush, they run the ball to the other side, and he becomes a non-factor. Yep. So they're going to have to figure out a way to get these second and long, third and long situations where he's unavoidable and he dominates, but they're going to have to get creative. Defensive tackle is a problem.
Is that what you're most worried about with this team?
Personnel-wise, yes.
Okay.
I'm not worried about anything else personnel-wise on the Cowboys besides figuring out defensive tackle, whether that's signing or trading or someone popping off. And then also Jake Ferguson getting back onto the field. I know it sounds stupid, and I know he's not Travis Kelce or Sam Laporta or George Kittle, but that guy makes a huge difference for Dak. He gives him so many looks on those third and mediums where he's just a reliable guy. When CeeDee Lamb gets doubled and he's one-on-one, I like him every single day of the week.
Yeah.
I think he makes a huge difference for this offense.
Yeah.
And helps CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, well, Schoonmaker had a good game still too, and
He did.
Yeah, the tight ends were weird just this year in general. I think Trey McBride's like the tight end one by a mile, and Brock Bowers looks awesome. But yeah, like Travis, Laporta, Mark Andrews, all the expected tight ends just haven't been showing out this year.
It's only been 2 weeks. You got to give him time.
Weird week, man. Just weird all around. The NFL is back in a lot of just spontaneous ways. I mean, the Niners lost to the Vikings, and let me close out Cowboys thoughts here because it's just not. I think it looked a little bit different than the losses we're used to. I think that game was a lot more about personnel than we're used to. It's usually just about the Cowboys having a weird fluke loss, which you're right. This was what we've seen in the past from them, but you said it best. It's only week 2. There's a lot more time for losses like this, and I wouldn't be surprised to see more of them. And I feel way more better about the Eagles going forward. They have easier problems to solve. It's as simple as that.
I'm happy that the Cowboys got it out week 2. I think it is that dud random fluke performance. I'll ask you this. I already know what answer you're going to give me, but whose loss was worse and why?
The Cowboys' loss was worse because of the issue. If we break down the problems about the Cowboys game was the dudes, and you can't replace dudes. You can't fix dudes, right? If you don't have the talent, you don't have the talent. And they have 3 good stars, and that's it. And for the Eagles, it's about putting it together, and they have plenty of time to do that. It's a lot easier to put it together with the talent you have, and I fully expect them to do it. Versus what? Are you guys going to go sign people in free agency with your cap space, right? I mean, Jake Ferguson's going to come back. That's where you're relying on. So, yeah, I thank you for giving me 24 minutes to take a step back from the game I just watched. I feel way better about that Eagles loss than the Cowboys, and I feel like a lot of America would agree.
I just, at what point does this whole all we need to do is put it all together?
I get it.
How many weeks into the season will it be like maybe they can't put it together?
Hey, they still win football games, and they would have won tonight if it weren't for a drop pass, right? So the conclusions you want to draw from this game, like how far down do you really want to go with them knowing what you just watched, how it really took one drop pass, and otherwise we're going to have a completely different conversation, right?
A drop pass. Let's not forget they had 43 seconds. They were 15 yards away from a field goal, and he threw a pick. Let's not forget about the missed 4th down. Let's not forget about all the touchdowns that they left on the field when they had to kick field goals.
Missed 4th down.
Let's not forget about the fact that the Falcons should have scored way more touchdowns.
They didn't. The defense showed out.
I don't think the Eagles did anything impressive. Your boy Quinyon Mitchell is the definition of average.
What? Dude, he had an awesome game. You didn't even watch. Could you possibly come out and make these conclusions? He played great. He had 2 awesome
I saw Darnell
plays.
Mooney.
Yeah, while they were playing 4-man deep prevent defense. That's not on him. That's not man coverage. When he was on dudes tonight, he was locking them down. So don't give me that. And Mike, when you just came at me with your rebuttal there, the only thing you could talk about is the Eagles. You refuse to talk about your own team that just got stomped on by a Saints team that that Falcons team I'll probably put my money on and let's just segue, okay? Because we got through it all. Let's talk about the rest of the NFL. And let me just start with the NFC South, because that might be the best division in football besides the Panthers. The Saints look like a wagon, and I have a lot to worry about next week. The Falcons put it together a lot more this week, and they're only going to get better. They'll be there in the end of the season. They have the talent. They have the infrastructure. And what team am I missing? My God, how could I forget the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Like, wagons right now. Just beat a damn good Detroit team at home. Revenge game. Baker. Things are rolling over there. The NFC South. Who would have thought? Here we go.
Quickly from the worst division in football to the best division in football.
Yeah.
I have my skepticism around the Falcons. I really don't think they're that good, which
You
makes
didn't
the
watch
Eagles'
the
loss
game.
even worse,
You
but we'll go
didn't
over
watch
that.
the game.
They're just not that good, and I
I
just
hate
don't.
you.
I've been a Falcons hater since before the season started. This is not me getting biased because they beat the Eagles.
All
You
right.
know that I've been saying this the
Okay.
whole season.
All right.
I'm not bought in on the Falcons. They're average like they've been the last 10 years. The
Mm.
Bucs are damn good. I have nothing bad to say about the Bucs. Baker Mayfield is a baller. As long as he continues to do this and not turn the ball over, which he hasn't been doing like the past of his career, the Bucs are a damn good football team and people should be afraid of them.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
the Saints, are the Saints legit?
We'll see next week.
We'll see. I think the next few weeks are really important for them. I think
Yep.
that they proved nothing in week 1 because they beat the worst team in football. And I don't think they proved that much in week 2 because they beat the Cowboys when they had their dud week. They just got lucky that they faced the Cowboys when the Cowboys had a dud.
Yeah, and we might be getting the NFC South at the worst time. I mean, we just saw this what the Saints did. We saw the Falcons squeak out of a win there. But next week, the Eagles got the Saints, and then they go to play a massive game against the Buccaneers. And
wow,
man, if we're talking about a 1-3 Eagles team because those two teams that we're about to play are really good, and they let that Falcons game squeak away, man, that's tough. That is very tough.
Would you sign off on a 1-1 split right now in the next 2 games if you could guarantee that?
No, because one of the here's the thing: if they lose one of those games, like they lose to the Saints next week, then we're talking about a 1-2 Eagles team, and people are going to lay in, and who knows what we're saying about the Saints at that point. Or if they beat the Saints and then lose to the Bucs, man, like we already know what that conversation is going to be like. Not to even mention our fucking friends. Oh my god, I can't handle that. By the way, it seems like you have a lot of Saints fans. They were showing out in the comments.
Yeah, I've only got like 4, and they all know that I'm a huge Cowboys fan. And
Props to them.
Like they all showed out. Fuck all of them.
Good for you guys. Don't do it again next week. But yeah, and then the Cowboys, they got the Ravens, and then they got an easy one on Thursday night against the Giants. And then they got the Steelers, who I got to see against the Broncos this weekend. And yeah, my weekend, I didn't get to watch a lot of college football because I was in Oktoberfest, and man, we will get to the Gators. And then Sunday, I got to catch the 11 o'clock games, and then I got to watch the worst Iowa football game disguised in an NFL game I've ever seen. And I said it on the last podcast. The last Broncos game I went to was 10-9 Sunday Night Football. This one was 13-6. 2 below 20-point scoring games. And no, I'm not in on the Steelers at all after that game. God damn it, I hate their fan base so much. They travel everywhere and are just the worst. And they're depressing because your team sucks and you're in above average territory every year. That's my rant about the Steelers game.
I was all over the Steelers.
Yeah,
felt good to be all over the Steelers. That was easy.
That sucked.
That rocking defense against Bo Nix and a sad offense was a recipe for the Steelers to have an easy win. I agree the Steelers aren't good, but the Steelers are somehow go 8-9, 9-8, and slip into the playoffs or miss by half a game because Mike Tomlin just does this. I mean, TJ Watt and that defense is legit. I don't know how anybody scores on them. There's an argument they're the best defense in the league.
I think probably.
When they play good teams.
Yeah,
and when they play good teams, they're not going to be able to score because that offense is a joke.
No,
but this is what the Steelers do.
That's what they do. To beat. They're not going to win a playoff game, and that's my point. Is like, why do you guys show out for these week 2 games and act like you're going to win the Super Bowl? You're not. You're in above average territory every year with Mike Tomlin as your head coach, who invests in the D line instead of an offense. And so, have fun. Enjoy the next 10 games before it implodes. I'm sick of you Steelers fans.
I was in a big hole gambling wise, and of course I didn't parlay all 3, but I went 3 for 3 on the 4 o'clock slate. Absolutely slammed the Steelers.
Yeah,
and absolutely slammed the Cardinals.
Cardinals ripped. Yeah,
and what was the third game? Because I was all over that as well.
That was that wasn't the Cowboys. That was the Chiefs Bengals game, which. You want to talk about that one? I have my take on it.
Yeah, I didn't take anything except the Chiefs money line in a different parlay that didn't hit. So I guess I wasn't all over it.
Good story, Mike.
But the Bengals looked better.
The Bengals should have won. And that leads to my take. I'm so sick of the fucking Chiefs. And my take is like, I'm so convinced the NFL wants us to hate the Chiefs. Like, I think that's like their plan. Like, just what we see on a week by week basis. I'm absolutely allowed to use the term lucky. They should have won that game. Burrow had that near fumble, the pass interference. Say what you want about it, but like, come on. Like, that's a game.
You don't call that at the end of the game.
You don't call that. You just don't. Okay. And especially like not a good throw by Mahomes by any means. Like he's rolling back, he's lobbing the ball in the air. The receiver has to come back. Like it's a free ball, dude. Players go towards it, right? It's not one of those passes where it's like clearly a perfect throw and they interrupt it. So I'm sick of the Chiefs, dude. I'm so sick of them. They're like the amount of like lucky 3-point wins that come down to the end of the game is just ridiculous at this point. Like you can't hide all of this. So I'm sick of it. I feel bad for Joe Burrow and the Bengals because Trey Hendrickson was all over that game. And I'm just sick of the Chiefs. I'm so okay with just hating them unbiasedly. I know we win money on Patrick Mahomes, but I'm sick of them, dude.
I hate the Chiefs too. I think the only reason that we win money when we bet on Patrick Mahomes is because we know that somehow he's going to win the football game. I think that the NFL saw this reign of glory from Tom Brady and the Patriots, and clearly it must have been good for the NFL, even though everyone hated the Patriots and Tom Brady. And now they see the Chiefs and they're like, let's just recreate the Patriots. Let's make Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs the next dynasty for the next 10 to 15 years. And everyone's going to hate them. And they're going to get all these lucky breaks. We're not even going to try and hide it that well. And we're going to make them the most hateable team since the Patriots.
And they'll probably be there in January for them to have the storyline of like three-peats. And yeah, I'm sick of it. God, they're just, my frustration is like, they're just not that much better, right? Like, and the storyline becomes like, oh, well, because they have Patrick Mahomes, they squeeze out these wins. But like, that's just not really true. It comes from these weird circumstances, whether it's flags or just luckiness. Like I'm sick of it. It's not an aura, right? It's just I hope it comes crashing down in some way, but it's hard to imagine that with just their position, I guess, in the NFL.
They just lost Pacheco, and
he
might be done for like the whole year. They rely on the ground game more than they probably ever have. Travis Kelce looks pretty old and washed. He's been a non-factor in 2 straight games.
Didn't draft him in
Xavier
any leagues.
Worthy is just a deep ball. I don't see him ever being more than a guy that can run straight, and once every few games he'll blow by a botched coverage.
Yeah, he'll have good games.
It's Patrick Mahomes, Rashee Rice, and a defense that somehow makes enough plays along with the refs that are on their side.
Right. Yeah, and just a crazy amount of injuries, it felt like this week. Like, I mean...
in the first 2 weeks already.
Insane. I mean, yeah, I didn't even mention how A.J. Brown was out tonight, right? But Christian McCaffrey, it seems like people's fantasy rosters are decimated. The Cardinals, you touched on it, like a very impressive win. I was so happy to see Marvin Harrison show out. But the Rams are like decimated. They're actually dead, right? So like how much can you measure from that game? There's a lot of teams that fit that mold right now. One of them isn't the Packers, who showed out. And like I said, that's a good team. The Eagles had to beat them with Jordan Love at the helm. And so good win by the Packers there. What other games did you like from the weekend? I'll give you one. I think you were on the losing side of this. Ravens-Raiders. Listen, we can talk about the Ravens. I actually want to talk about the Raiders. I love that team. Love it. Dude, they're 2 tight end sets with Mayer and Bowers. Yeah, play your game. They have an identity. It's the run game hasn't really even been on. Man, if they still had Jacobs, that'd be a team, because if the run game can put it together and Gardner Minshew can just keep making these good throws, the concerning thing about the Ravens is like it seemed like every 3rd and long the Raiders were converting, and that's with Gardner Minshew at the helm, and that's a big problem. But gritty win by the Raiders, kind of like the Eagles game right now. The Ravens had that game for 3.5 quarters, and then just like that, they lost, and they're 0-2 going to a game against the Cowboys. Weird game.
Yeah, and the Ravens were dominant last year in the regular season, and
Yeah, especially
the
beginning.
offense looked unstoppable, and the offense theoretically got better with Derrick Henry, the first real, actual decent running back that Lamar Jackson has ever had. I don't know if he's washed or teams are game planning or him and Lamar don't have the RPO down or the read option or whatever, but Lamar has no time to throw the ball and he can't find anybody open because their receivers aren't elite enough to win one-on-one. Derrick Henry can't run the ball, so they're always in these long down situations. But even so, like you said, they were up 10 points comfortably, coasting against a team that really couldn't get anything going on offense. And suddenly, the second half, shit started to click, and Brock Bowers was open, and Devontae Adams was open. He gets a touchdown.
Man.
And then they get a stop, and then they go down and kick a game-winning field goal.
I really loved the point you brought up just about like the Eagles style of football and keeping these games close, because we saw it with the Ravens too. Like, it's a game of inches. If it's too close at the end, it's still anyone's game. And it's almost like it feels like these teams that are down 6 points on the last drive, like they just like have this momentum, knowing they've been down all game and have a chance to win. Like, you almost favor them in those moments. So I'm just out on this style of football, man. Like, put them to bed when you can. Bring the offensive guns out, right? It's man, they shot themselves in the foot there.
It's all the analytics. The analytics
it's
favor
weird.
that style of football. The Eagles, the Ravens. I would argue the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy like to play that style of football. It's just they don't have a good running back. But it's that analytical, keep the game close, work the clock into your favor, have the ball last, win the game.
Right.
Now, if you don't have the ball last and your defense doesn't come up, you lose the game. And I think you see this a lot of times with teams like the Ravens last year, winning all those close games and looking awesome. Now suddenly they lose the close games. They look bad. You go back a few years to when the Vikings made the playoffs. I think they were 8-0 or something in one-score games that year. Mm-hmm. And then they came back the next year and were like 5-12 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a recipe for consistent success. You can't win those close games. Yeah, but the Chiefs have the refs, which is unfair.
Right, that's what we're trying to say. I mean, yeah, it's a scary type of football, and like besides the Saints, like what team has ran away with it? I mean, the Chargers also had a great game this week. I'm pretty sure they have, I think my game of the week next week is Chargers Steelers in Pittsburgh. Like, what an intriguing game. Both teams are 2-0. And are those playoff teams? Like, we don't really know. So very intriguing game there. They cover easily against the Chargers or against the Panthers, who news today out of Carolina, Bryce Young has already been benched. And this can be a normal benching, or this can be we're done with Bryce Young benching, in which case this was the fastest it's ever happened to a first overall pick. And just, wow, nothing to be happy about over there.
No, and I honestly, I wouldn't say I feel bad for Bryce Young. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he should have gone number one. Obviously, you look at the guy behind him and CJ Stroud. It's easy to say that he should have gone number one. But I think he's in a terrible situation with no O-line and no weapons on the outside and no running back and no defense. I mean, that's the worst roster up and down in the whole NFL.
But he's bad.
He's really bad. Don't get me wrong.
Is
Andy Dalton going to do anything different, though?
Probably, like, a little bit better. Yeah, that's why I'm staying away from, the spread next week, too. But, no, he's bad. I was thinking, though, if there's one team that, he could potentially revive his career, go to Miami, be Tua's backup. They're both small quarterbacks. He can get the ball out quick there. And who knows, he might even get some playing time with whatever's going on with Tua. But other than that, man, rest in peace, Bryce Young. And wow, it's just crazy how much of a difference it is with Stroud. And that's the NFL, man. We didn't see it in college like that. Nobody did.
Let me ask you this, though. It's interesting. I didn't think you were going to go Dolphins there for a potential revival of his career. I thought that you were going to say the 49ers, which, and then that
Same
brings up the
thing.
point. If Brock Purdy was drafted by the Panthers and became the quarterback of the Carolina
What a good
Panthers,
question.
what does he look like right now?
I mean, he's definitely not starting, is the thing, because the reason he's the Niners QB is because they already had a loaded roster. Their QBs went down. If he gets drafted to Carolina, I mean, I guess it would depend on the hypothetical. Like, is he rated as the first overall quarterback, or is he still going there as like the Mr. Irrelevant? Because in that case, like, he would probably just sit behind backups and they would all be bad.
Yeah, but
But
let's say that he somehow gets under center.
right,
And he's the quarterback of the Panthers. Does he do differently in the past
Nothing.
2 weeks? Let's not even talk about last season. What does he do in the past 2 weeks? And does it look different than what Bryce Young has done?
There's let's give Brock Purdy some credit. There's probably some throws he makes. Now, I don't think we're talking about Brock Purdy like we do now. I don't think we're anywhere close. I think he probably gets benched at some point too. I think anyone does on that team. But still, I mean, there's just signs there with Bryce Young where you're like, it's not there. He doesn't have it. You have to move on. And maybe like this was the first good move they made as a franchise, moving on sooner rather than later. But to answer your question, like, yes, he would not do any better, but I still don't think that saves Bryce Young.
Agreed. And I think, yeah, good move by the Panthers. They had to. It was going to happen at some point. Take the Band-Aid off and rip it off early. They're just screwed because they gave up so much to get him. The Bears look like fucking geniuses. It doesn't matter if Caleb Williams plays with his left hand.
We'll
He
get
looks
to him
better
next.
because that trade where they got DJ Moore and the other picks and Caleb Williams and they have another pick next year and now Bryce Young is done. I mean, the Panthers now have no picks and no players and no future. They're bad for the next 10 years.
Yeah, no, like I said, like nothing to look forward to. I heard Bill Simmons today relate them to like worst franchise in sports except for the White Sox. But then he said like at least the White Sox have like a farm. Like they got to have one player they're excited for. Panthers have nobody. They don't even have draft picks. Like I just feel bad for the two fans that they have. Let's bring this to Caleb Williams, and I have a question. So you and me were both high on him, and I have my reservations. He's just like he's kind of just Kyler Murray, right? But worse.
I like him as a quarterback. I think he's off to a slow start, as some rookies do. I think the play calling is bad.
It is. It is very bad.
They're running this super conservative, like Broncos Bo Nix kind of rookie offense where they're babying him so he doesn't throw turnovers. DeAndre Swift with that O-line is not an elite running back that they can't rely upon.
Sure, but
and Caleb Williams, I think the problem is he's super committed to becoming this pocket passer. And he doesn't want to roll out. He doesn't want to run. He said it publicly multiple times in the past few weeks and the offseason that he really wants to get the ball out quick and be a pocket passer. He wants to be a quarterback.
yeah.
But that's not who he is.
Well,
that's not what he did at USC. At USC, he had to scramble. They didn't have an O-line. And he made insane plays, and he showed this insane potential.
Yeah,
and
but
that doesn't do any of that on the Bears.
He tried. He had times where when he did roll out, and he would make this amazing escape, and then he threw a pick because that just doesn't work in the NFL. And that's the thing that's concerning to me about him. Like when I look at Killian Williams, and I'm like just trying to picture a best version of himself from the two games we've seen so far. It's hard to imagine one because he's at his best when he's scrambling away and making these insane throws. But we've seen, even with a talented receiving core, and I know Keenan Allen was out, that like those windows aren't there and you got to be like perfect. And he hasn't been, and maybe he will be. But then that leads to the question, like, can you be this pocket passer? And I don't think he can. So what is peak Caleb Williams look like? Is it a Super Bowl winning quarterback with his style of football? Mike, I think my answer is no. I don't see it.
I'm still a Caleb Williams supporter. I think the offensive game plan is doing him no favors. Roma Dunes is banged up. Keenan Allen's out. None of the receivers could get open, and they run this super conservative offense. I think he got significantly better from week one. Not that
Especially
he did
first half.
anything like impressive, but he was significantly better. Yeah, he had to try and make those college USC-esque plays, and he turned the ball over. A few of them were equivalent to a punt, so I'm like, okay, whatever, like that was bad, but you got to try and do something at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was forcing it or if he just isn't used to defenses making plays like that. I think he's smart. He's going to start to read defenses better. He's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
If they can continue to get him outside the pocket on a more consistent basis, and it's not just him doing it when the O-line breaks down, and they run a Caleb Williams offense, I think he's got a real chance.
That's fair. And don't think I'm out on Caleb Williams, because I mean, Bears fans should know, like, we are so far away from the peak product of Caleb Williams. I think I'm just able to say that I think my envisioned ceiling of Caleb Williams has dropped after the first 2 weeks. And I think I'm okay with saying that. But yeah, and Texans look sturdy. CJ Stroud in that Bears defense, they stalled him a lot. Very, very boring Sunday night football game.
Super boring.
Yeah. But great 1 p.m. slate, great 2 o'clock games. Am I missing any other games, Mike? I mean, we hit on the Commanders and Giants. Jaden Daniels, he looks sturdy. He has his rookie mistakes, but I like his ceiling the most out of everyone.
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, and Bo Nix is not really close to Jaden Daniels at all. I mean, Bo Nix is not good.
I mean, the Commanders, that should have never been a game. They had 7 field goals. I think 3 or 4 of them were inside of the 10. And this was the same thing that happened in week 1 and why they weren't really in the game against the Bucs, even though they could have been, and he still looked good. They just couldn't finish in the red zone. If he can figure out how to get that offense scoring touchdowns, they're not going to win games because the defense is bad, but he's legit and he's really good, and that offense can be really, really good.
Yep, absolutely. We'll just run on the games we didn't touch. Browns, Jaguars, quick take. Doug Peterson might be the worst coach in the NFL. Like, that was bad. That was all coaching. Same thing last week.
Yeah, same thing. Trevor Lawrence still doesn't look that great. I think he's also in a really shitty situation.
No. He was bad. Like, not good.
I agree. I mean, Browns have a good defense. I think the Jags run a terrible offense. But it's nowhere near like let's bench Trevor Lawrence time.
Well, no.
But it's definitely past the point of like questions are, is he a bust?
Well, yeah, like I don't know if he's an above average quarterback. And that's definitely a bust for what we thought from him.
And they had such high hopes for that team.
And Deshaun Watson was better. And if you go and rewatch the tape from our episode, my Cowboys, this game was more about Deshaun Watson than the Cowboys. Absolutely held true from what we saw in the Cowboys. And Deshaun Watson played better this game, and it led to a win. Jets at Titans, I have nothing from this game. I'm pretty sure Will Levis shit the bed again. So he's got to figure that out.
Did you see the play?
I saw the play. It was the same exact play, wasn't it?
It was very similar. I mean, he was getting tackled, and he sort of tried to throw, pitch, do something with the ball, ended up throwing it backwards at the running back's area, and then the Jets fell on the ball. And I believe it was on 3rd down in the red zone where they would have just kicked a field goal early in the game.
Makes sense.
No big deal.
I saw the coach come out too, and he was like pissed, which was actually kind of cool to see. Like, call out your player. Like, yeah, Will Levis probably needs that. But it's probably how he's going to get better. But
yeah, and back-to-back weeks of them losing 24-17, just for a fun fact.
Yeah, Rodgers needed that game because at one point on Sunday it was looking like the Thursday night game next week of Patriots-Jets was going to be a 2-0 Patriots team versus a a 0-2 Jets team. The Jets squeezed it out. I think that's very, very important for them that they did. And then the Patriots almost beat the Seahawks too, and they're a frisky team. And let's give some props to Geno Smith. It's Jackson Smith and Jigba had a good game too, but yeah, that Seahawks team has just a lot of talent, and I think the only question about them coming into the season was the new coaching. And from 2 weeks on, they've proven that they're competent enough to take advantage of the roster they have. So probably a playoff team we're looking at in Seattle. They're leading the NFC West.
Close to a playoff team. I'm not sold on them. They had a gritty performance, which they shouldn't need a gritty performance to beat the Patriots, but they were down a lot of that game and they battled, and the defense held up, which they should have done better than just hold up. Like, they need to be better. They should be better. I don't know if they're capable of being better is my point here. I think they're in a completely different way of playing style, very similar to a Steelers, where they're going to hang around about 500 the whole season, maybe slip into the playoffs, maybe not. Would love to see them in the playoffs if I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm not afraid of them, but yeah, they're going to be around all season.
Looking at the week 3 slate, there's some juice. It'll be a fun week 3. Cool. So we can just end the episode on this. I don't have much else from the Gators on College Football Sunday. Let me just hit the big points. I mean, Arch Manning was great. Texas is a steamroll. Georgia absolutely should have fucking lost that game. Mark Stoops punted with 3 minutes left, down 1 point on like his 50-yard line. And you're just not going to beat Georgia that way, Mark Stoops. What the hell are you doing? I was losing my mind watching that game. I was hammered after a day of Oktoberfest in Breck, and I was pissed. That was terrible. What other college games?
How many opportunities does Kentucky get to beat the number 1 team in the nation?
Right. Just disappointing. Yeah. Georgia should have lost. Before we get to the Gators, can we have one smile?
Ole Miss?
Close. Not really, though. Bigger smile.
Kansas State?
Mike, Florida State's 0-3.
I can smile for that.
Wow. Thank God. Because this is the lowest I think we've ever been as Gator fans. I can confidently say that, actually.
Yeah.
And FSU somehow worse right now.
Way worse.
Yeah, wow. Holy 3 after a 13-0 season to 3 extremely average teams. Oh, no.
First team in Division I football to go 0-3 this season.
Oh my God. After going 13-0 last season, I mean, that was on nobody's bingo card. They could go 2-11 in the ACC. Holy shit.
Everything is bad about them. It's awesome. DJU or whatever the fuck his nickname is terrible. The defense is average at best. Mike Norvell has completely lost that team, and he has no idea what he's doing. And Florida State might be the worst football game of the season.
We should go. It has our names all over it, especially for what I just saw at the Broncos game. I feel like I'm a football curse. We'll just touch on some other quick games. Well, Arizona got stomped by Kansas State. I don't know. Did you take Kansas State? Yeah, you did. No, you went back to Arizona. Yeah, so you almost had the right idea. It made too much sense. I spit too much logic. And then, of course, they got steamrolled. And that set the tone for the weekend.
It was my fault for getting convinced by you to take a bet. And then as soon as we were both on it, everyone in the world should have taken Kansas State.
I think we told people that too. And yeah, no, that was not a good start. Nope. Toledo, though, beat Mississippi State outright. So we were on.
I think that was the only one that we were really on.
Yep.
The biggest underdog that we've predicted so far this season. I totally forgot to bet it.
Which one was it?
Which one was what?
The underdog.
Toledo.
I didn't bet it.
No, totally forgot.
I forgot to put in a lot of bets too. That was one I got in, but yeah. That sucks, Mike. I'm sorry. But hey, you know, I think we had a breathable weekend, right? Just to give you an update on what the picks are. So me and Mike did both hit our our big bets, so automatic 3 wins there, 4-4 actual, but 6-4 with added points. Season record, I'm up 16-9 over Mike's 14-10. So close race to start. We went against
above 500 though.
Yeah, come on now. And
2-0 in the locks.
We'll have to take away the big ones from the record at the end of the season, see what it actually was. But yeah, 2-0 with the locks. Like, let's see which one of us can keep it going with the locks, right? Like, one of us has to go 17-0, 18-0. Right? We can do it.
Why not us?
Why not us? I was actually thinking about doing something kind of funny next week for my lock. I'll tease it right now, and I don't think I'm going to do it, but it would be a nice spot for me to take Saints to cover, because one, they look really good, and because sets my expectations properly, and Eagles win, I'm surprised, and I lose my big bet. If the Eagles lose, I'm 3-0 on my big bet, so could stop the bleeding a little bit, Mike. Right? Good logic.
I just 2 takeaways from that insane statement that you just made.
What?
One, I'll harp on the fact that you have no idea the football team is going to show up on Sunday when the Eagles take the field.
Yeah, now I
And number
definitely
2,
don't.
I just didn't pick you to be a guy that's like a lose-lose kind of guy. Like, at least I win one of them.
Mike,
you're guaranteed to lose one of them.
You'd be the same way if we were filming this podcast 10 minutes after the Cowboys loss, okay? You got the better end of the straw somehow from this weekend, getting me 10 minutes after this fucking game. So I'm not going to actually do it, okay? I was just talking through outcomes, right?
So far, after week 1, Michael Jaws has admitted that he'd rather have Dak Prescott on his team than Jalen Hurts. And after week 2, he said that he might bet against the Eagles to guarantee himself a win.
You're spinning my words. That's not what I said. I said that he'd be able to feed AJ and Devontae better than Jalen did. And Jalen proved that point wrong this week. So that's great. And hell, maybe if I put my eggs in the same basket for next week, saying the opposite thing, that it would help my team again. And this time it would result in a win rather than just a Jalen Hurts good performance. I just don't like that I'm not able to talk about any of the good things I saw tonight, and it was a lot of it. But that's how the NFL works. And Mike, that was a good episode, but we have to end on this.
I feel great. I enjoyed that episode a lot more than I expected to.
Well, we have to end on this. What haven't we hit yet? We avoided it.
Can we just continue to avoid it?
No, we have to hit it.
No, we have to hit it.
He hasn't been fired yet, but that was it.
I don't think he will. I don't think they're going to do it.
But that was it. There's no coming back from that.
Nope. Over 4.5 wins is gone. I mean, take my money, FanDuel.
God, take it all. Holy shit, the Gators got stomped on. The score wasn't even that close. 33-20, Texas A&M. A quarterback we thought was bad. A team that we thought was on the same level as talent, just like we thought with Miami. But then we were like, Texas A&M, it'll actually be true. Nope. Same thing, probably in almost a worse way, just from the way they ran the ball. Yeah, Billy Napier, you're done. And Florida football is very sad. And Twitter was going crazy, and I was like, here it is, like the big shakeup. Because it wasn't the big shakeup after Dan Mullen. Like, you kept pieces, you tried sticking in a Band-Aid. But this is like, break up the band. Like, everything. It's over.
It's done.
Sad.
It's just sad. And from a betting standpoint, I was really excited because you said something really wise last week. I don't know if you remember exactly what it was, but you said it's the same spread as it was for the Miami game, and Miami is much better than Texas A&M.
At home, same time.
You're right. And I'm like, whether or not the Florida Gators are going to win, I have significantly better value in this game getting the same spread against a worse team after we just came off a dominant win and we feel good. And I was like, you know what? I feel good. And I didn't believe we were then going to go win the next 10 games and make the playoff, but I thought we were going to finally show up in the swamp where we dominate. It's our home. It's hard to come in there and win SEC football and beat the Aggies.
I mean, you got to win those games in the swamp. like juiced up crowd. You're not going to get another juiced up Florida crowd. That was the last one you're getting all season. They're going to
Yeah,
get.
I
They're going
think
to get.
someone on Twitter said it, or someone texted it or something. But the best part of that game was when it got delayed because of the weather.
Yeah,
Because you
yeah.
didn't have to watch the Florida
Oh
Gators
my
play
god.
football for 45 minutes.
And we can excuse ourselves from a good chunk of the games this year. I mean, we'll have better games to watch on television than the Florida Gators. I'm sorry, DJ Lagway. I don't even want to say stay because I like you and you're going to be a great quarterback. And it sucks, man. It's a tough team to root
Yeah,
for.
even if we say stay, he's not going to stay.
I
He's
don't
got to
know.
be absolutely out of his mind to not go to a top program with an offensive mastermind and fuck shit up for the next 2 years.
Dude.
Probably win a Heisman just to rub it in our face and then get drafted as a top 10 player in the draft.
Yep. Wouldn't that be crazy if Anthony Richardson and Lagway were both just like stud NFL quarterbacks and neither of them had a winning record at UF? Like that would just could you fucking imagine? You know how bad of a program you have to be to have that, man.
Just like we made Kyle Trask look good, and then it was like, all right, now we got actual good quarterbacks.
But no Kyle Pitts, no Grimes anymore, no electric defense. It's sad. It's so sad. Well,
they're going to be bad for a while. The transfer portal allows them to speed up the rebuild a little bit, but there's no coach out there. I don't want to speed up
rebuild. I just want them to do it right. Suck for a while. God, just don't be this average, below average team anymore. It's so excruciating, especially with how good the SEC is. Like you just need the full shakeup. But I don't know. That's so much harder said than done in college football. Like if you blow everything up, it's a long window to get back. So we'll see.
Yeah, and there's no coach out there right now. I mean,
Urban.
Who knows? Maybe that's why they're waiting. I think they're waiting because they're the Florida Gators and they're idiots and
nobody
they're
wants
really
the job.
soft and they're pussies. But
nobody wants the job. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe you and I can apply for the job. I'd rather do that than do another podcast after the Eagles lose like that again. But we made it through. Hope you guys enjoyed our reactions. And like I said, week 3 will definitely give us some more answers. Man, could have been a really nice Monday night. Should have been a really nice Monday night. But here we are. You get a little bit of a smile. You get a little bit of a delay from the real truth of the Cowboys that's going to come out in the coming weeks, Mike, which is that they're a fraudulent team that has very glaring holes, all because of Jerry Jones' decision-making. And the Eagles, the question will be, do you actually have it? Can you show us, please? And we'll see.
Big week 3 for both of us. We'll hit on it a lot more on Thursday. We get 48 hours to get over our losses and think towards week 3 where, I mean, are both of us? Well, the Cowboys will be favored at home. Are the Eagles at home?
The Eagles are in New Orleans. And I think before the game, it was -1. Let's see if it changed. I bet you it's not even out yet. Do you want to guess?
Saints might be favored.
What do you think the Cowboys spread is?
Cowboys will get like a nice -3.
You're 4 points off. The Baltimore Ravens are favored by 1 in Dallas.
Come on.
I think it's the right line, too.
The 0-2 Baltimore Ravens are favored walking into Jerry World.
Jerry World that just got stomped on by 25. I think that line's correct. Maybe more so that the Ravens are 0-2. They need this game.
I mean, yeah, they're desperate, but what have they shown that like they can win a football game?
Well, come on. They've shown us that. They arguably could be 2-0 right now. Same thing with the Eagles. They're favored by 1 in New Orleans. So still getting respect. That line could probably even out. Especially I don't think AJ Brown will play again, which is big. And the Saints just are a polished football team right now, and it's that was going to be really cool, especially with the Eagles winning that game, because it would have been 2 wins where there were still some question marks, right? And they kind of probably didn't have the luxury to have those question marks in week 3 against the Saints. The case is still set, except they're 1-1, so even more pressure now. But same thing said for the Cowboys, and I still think the Ravens are better than the Saints, so I could be proven wrong. And if we were just talking rosters too, Mike, I like the Eagles more than the Cowboys still going into Week 3. What do you have to say about that?
I completely disagree. My opinion. I'll continue to harp on the same things that I've been saying all season because I haven't been wrong about a single prediction for the Eagles. Jalen Hurts isn't a great pocket passer. He only knows how to run.
Your Saquon
But let me just go over what I've been saying.
Your Saquon
Jalen Hurts is not an elite pocket passer. They've figured out how to defend him.
22 for 27
The Eagles defense
tonight.
still has questions. The locker room has questions. When will they put it together, if ever?
They put it together tonight. They had a drop pass. I don't like that argument. Okay?
60 minutes. You have to play for 60 minutes, and the Eagles did not put it together for 60 minutes.
You're right. They played for 58, and the Cowboys played for 14. So, shut up. God, I hate that loss so much. That's a podcast. Why not us? Tough week. We're still breathing. We'll have more content next week. I'm Mike. Wow. Need to go to bed. Wow. Wow. Shout out.
Peace.
Wow.